Content warning, this video is about conservatives claiming that LGBTQ plus people are of the sexual deviant. It is a double standard, and that is what this video is about. Let's start this video off in a traditional 2022 fashion because I think this tweet says it really well and it hits the nail right on the fucking head. Here we go. As a little boy, bullies called me a girl. Now bullies call me a man. You can't win. Only I do because I have a killer rack and a big dick. Now, perhaps the tweet itself was a little bit forward, but I think there's more to this tweet than what is being said on the surface. Let's explore this a little bit. Earlier this month, on December 8th, 2022, Pornhub released their annual year in review, which is a very handy gathering of statistics in people using the site from all over the world. And it turns out that transgender porn is quite popular on the website as of recently. In 2022, searches involving transgender-related pornography increased by 75%, making it the 7th most popular category worldwide and the #1 category in the country of Brazil. If you need a general scope on that kind of magnitude, Brazil has a population of 214 million people as of 2021, ranking it as the 6th most populated nation in the world, behind Pakistan, Indonesia, the United States, India, and China, according to Worldometer. In addition, transgender porn has become the 3rd most popular in the United States and Italy. And oh hey, let's give a big round of applause to Italy for electing their new Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, full of baloney. At one point joined the Italian Social Movement, a neo-fascist political party that was created by former fanboys of Italian fascist dictator Benito Mussolini.
Meloni herself was a hardcore neo-fascist militant her whole life since 15 years old, rising to become the head in the 90s of the youth organization. And it's very important, if you look at the logo of the party, there's a tricolor flame in there. And that was the original logo of the neo-fascist party that was founded after Mussolini, died and his party was banned.
Keep that in mind when you hear me, or Pornhub for that matter, say that transgender porn is the 3rd most searched result on Pornhub in the nation state of Italy. But something that absolutely fascinates me about these statistics released straight from the horse's mouth of Pornhub is that while Italy ranks as number 6 on the scale of increased traffic, even having lost a little bit of traffic to Mexico, the United States landslides every other fucking country by an astronomical margin.
Holy shit!
Which means it's clear that the citizens of the United States is spending a lot of its free time getting their rocks off to transgender pornography, while during the same exact year, stepmom-related pornography increased by 2 whole rankings. Earlier this year, I did a video talking about rainbow capitalism and how rainbow capitalism is really fucking toxic, especially when it comes to catering to LGBTQ plus people. Corporations do not actually care about LGBTQ plus people. They especially don't care about queer and trans youth. And in that same video, I played a clip that Corey Chase performed in. Corey Chase, for those who don't know, is a porn actress who performs in a lot of family taboo related scenes, usually playing the role of the daughter or the sister, or most popularly, the stepmom.
These are my panties, what are you doing?
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I have this boner and it won't go away and I don't know what to do.
I want to show you how I responded to this scene. I thought it was really interesting at the time.
I just happened to be walking past your working place. You weren't there, so I thought I'd come over here.
Snuffkin, did you see you-know-what?
Of course I didn't. I closed my eyes like I said.
Of course you did.
I kind of very randomly ran into that one. Like, I'm not here to kink shame. Of course, we all have our kinks and we're all into different things that, so to speak, get our rocks off, of course. And if, mommy doll gets you off, then okay. Of course, the genre is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about very specifically the fact that this plot is around gender dysphoria. Something that I don't think that the producers of this film are aware of what that even means. Because of course, according to this plot, which of course we're not supposed to take seriously, the proposed solution to gender dysphoria is not transforming healthcare, it's mommy needs to fuck you. Now, I think I've had some time to really think about what my feelings were on that scene at the time, so I'm going to talk about it here. I don't think that some of those points that I was making were without any weight to them. On June 11th, 2022, in the city of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 31 goofy dipshits from the ass clown hate groups The Patriot Front traveled from 10 different states in fucking U-Hauls in order to make it to a pride event to conspire a riot. Let's take a good look at this banner here that says, "Strong families make strong nations." Keep that image in your head as we discuss conservatives and how they view families. There were reports of men loading up in small trucks nearby like they were assembling a small army. And even less than a mile away, the Christian white nationalist hate group, the American First Movement, were reciting Catholic prayers, talking about bringing guns to the park to go shoot queer people. Now, some people will say that these people ended up getting arrested and that we should be thanking the police here. But this is not that simple. There's a lot more at play here. It's always these Christian conservative settler fucking mayonnaise super straight incel people who are looking to kill the queer community because the nuclear family has been in a microwave for too long. By the way, 1 in 5 members of the Patriot Front claim to have ties with the US military. Y'all have like these 3 fucking nationally recognized holidays. How the fuck did you come to the conclusion that white people are oppressed, you racist fucking weirdos?
Who are the Patriot Front and what do we know about what they were planning?
The Patriot Front is considered a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Their interest is the establishment of a white ethno-state. The whole day leading up to these arrests was incredibly tense. People affiliated with the Pride event had for weeks been at the receiving end of an intense pressure campaign to cancel it. An anti-LGBTQ group was assembling nearby and encouraging its members to bring guns. And there were many other people unaffiliated with that group just walking around and through the gathering, openly carrying long rifles and handguns, which is legal in Idaho. But with the recent mass shootings, this was unnerving to some people at the Pride event, even if they were pro-gun Idahoans.
But keep in mind, that is what they believe. They are white nationalists who want to kill non-whites and non-straights. You may not realize this, but this shit has been strategic in their modus operandi.
What you saw in northern Idaho, this LGBTQ rhetoric, it's showing up in other places around the country, right?
It is, yeah. The rhetoric was very representative of mis and disinformation that's really, taken hold on the right recently. Also, the groups and the movements that were protesting the event yesterday really showed how opposition to LGBTQ people has become a strongly unifying cause in this moment on the far right. Aisha, aside from Patriot Front, there were self-identified Christian nationalists, but there Also with something going on that's really particular to North Idaho. You know, this region has for a long time captured the imagination of the far right who associate it with ideals of freedom, conservatism, and depending on who you talk to, whiteness and Christianity. And increasingly, people are moving here for that reason.
And so this fascist tactic that you just heard about is called forced removal. Something that many fascist and disgraceful settler colonists have pulled throughout history worldwide. All this is that tactic, but more unmasked.
This boy and girl coming home from school look quite content with life. And why not? They're looking forward to an important date, dinner at home with the family. What's the matter? Doesn't that sound exciting to you? Well, to them it's a special occasion, as it has been ever since they sat down to dinner in high chairs. Why should they feel that way about something you take so completely for granted?
And I think there are a lot of things involved here. One is narcissism. I just think my generation, the baby boomers, was ushered in a narcissism that has not escaped since then. What has happened is the most secular generation in American history, and now it's even more secular. I had issues with my parents when I was in my teen years. But not only that, there was never a time that they even really knew I had these issues because I treated them with honor.
What Dennis Prager is doing here is setting a standard that he believes should be upheld unconditionally, primarily centering around family and building a nation. Dennis Prager tends to associate himself with a lot of homophobic and transphobic people, and it's usually these Christian Puritan freaks who try to uphold these kinds of values against the queer and trans community, and it makes their specifically Christian nationalist ideology the status quo by coercion and violence.
I know the reason. There were two reasons. The biggest reason was I actually believed that God gave the 10 Commandments, and in those 10 Commandments is a commandment, honor your father and mother. It doesn't say honor your father and mother if you really like them. Honor your father and mother if things are going well.
And you gotta remember that this kind of fascism is specifically American fascism, because American fascism is about making America great again. The video footage that you are seeing involving the nuclear family is American capitalist propaganda, largely due to the economic boom following World War II. America has its own form of fascism. It currently exists. We live in the social mode of fascism within America. It has its own flavors, it has its own style, it has its own type, I guess. And a lot of it is very involved in the government. Over 300 anti-transgender bills were introduced in the United States in the year of 2022. And it makes me really upset that there are a lot of people who want to fuck trans people, jack off to pictures of us, but also want to kill us and make our existence illegal. These Pornhub statistics that we looked at earlier at the beginning of the video are really interesting, but they're not exactly helpful. Pornhub is indeed very heavily trafficked in pornographic consumption, but these statistics are unique specifically and exclusively to Pornhub. So how about a more broad study from lawsuit.org? It revealed that states where transgender porn is most searched are most likely to have those anti-transgender bills within the same state legislature. Remember the Uvalde shooting and how the police made complete asses of themselves? Remember the repeal of Roe v. Wade? Remember how Elm Fork John Brown Gun Club had to go defend a drag story time because fascists were gonna fucking shoot it up? Well, in the state of Texas, yeah, they're the number one in US states out of 20 that search for transgender porn.
Just look at that shit. I've always dreamed of pulling a Guy Fawkes on the Texas legislature. Just blow the damn thing sky high. I've got maps in my room and I'll do it someday. Texas is so full of these so-called modern-day libertarians with all their goddamn selfish individualism. Just the opposite of real anarchism. They don't give a damn about improving the world.
Remember when Alex Jones shat himself on trial? Well, during an episode, he was promoting his vitamins or whatever. He accidentally flashed his phone, showing that he was looking at transgender pornography. Keeping in mind that transgender people make up 1% of the world population, Alex Jones has routinely said that transgender people are persecuting one of the only human cultures left. What the fuck? And even politicians look at transgender pornography, like the state Alabama Senator Tom Whatley, who voted SB 10 to criminalize gender-affirming care. But 1 week later, he liked a pornographic image of a transgender model on Twitter. Also, a little fun fact, did you know that Ted Cruz, Texas State Republican Senator, has the hots for the aforementioned Corey Chase? But it's not mutual, which I think is kind of funny. Also, this video is not meant to be a diss track of Corey Chase. That's not what this is meant to be at all. Now, people being attracted to transgender people isn't the issue here. I'm not here to kink shame. In fact, I am here to be sex positive, not sex negative. If you are sexually attracted to transgender people, then that's cool. But then don't turn around and then tell young and impressionable people that being transgender or being attracted to transgender people is sexual deviancy or some kind of sin. Because we know who's saying it. It's self-proclaimed theocratic fascist like Matt Walsh, who is the biggest pedophile, the biggest peddler of the rumor that transgender people are grooming the kids, while it has been revealed that he is very into the idea of impregnating 16-year-old girls. How the fuck are cisgender straight white men who are going through their fucking emotional crisis not groomers themselves when they say they want to impregnate 16-year-old girls? I did a whole video about this earlier this year. It's a whole can of worms on its own. It would make this video way too long. But what I'm more interested in is what Matt Walsh thinks of the Catholic Church, an institution with a long history of child sex abuse. If we are to contrast the fear-mongering, baseless claims that transgender people are grooming children, the Catholic institutions are systemically pedophilic. Well, Matt Walsh, who is a theocratic fascist who wants to fuck underage girls, we can totally fucking trust this guy. He says the pedophile scandal in the Catholic Church is not a pedophile scandal. The vast majority of victims are prepubescent teens and young men. The real problem in the church that everyone sees and few will say out loud: gay priest. Okay, so let's make this interesting. Matt Walsh, if you believe that I am a man, even though that I am a transgender woman who has been sexually assaulted in church before when I was a kid, what would you do if I told you that my attacker was a woman? What would you do then? Would you dismiss it and say I was the exception? Because that is a lot of jumping through hoops just to be able to justify your baseless claim that the problem here is not pedophilia, but it is gay priest.
The sex abuse scandal in the church is not a pedophilia scandal. The problem isn't pedophilia, what we're told and what you hear in the media about all the so-called pedophile priests and so on. The problem is not pedophilia. The problem is gay priests. The vast majority of victims were male, and the vast majority were not prepubescent children. And pedophilia, by definition, is the sexual assault of a prepubescent child.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. It's not pedophilia, it's ephebophilia. My bad. I should be more considerate of the fucking sensibilities of cringe-worm libertarian nutjobs on the internet. But this is not unique to Matt Walsh. But Matt Walsh is a great example of what we are talking about here. Matt Walsh is trying to redirect the criticism and scrutiny of the Catholic Church for its heinous fucking systemic pedophilia. And redirecting that anger towards LGBTQ plus people. He's trying to get the audience to not question the hierarchies that are the institutions that make up the Catholic Church. It makes it a lot harder for people to be able to check the church while creating a scapegoat to justify anti-LGBTQ plus violence and anti-LGBTQ plus lobbying for anti-LGBTQ plus legislation, drawing the queer and trans community as sexual deviants.
Now, for some reason, the law takes an entirely different attitude toward the two sexes in this matter. Between women, homosexuality is perfectly legal, but between men it's a crime, rendering the offender liable to several years of imprisonment. There are only half a dozen countries in the world in which it is a crime, but for some reason Britain is one of them. So what's it like then to be a male homosexual in Britain today whose only choice is between a lifetime of complete sexual abstinence or being a criminal?
And this is where it all wraps up to the beginning of the video, where we talked about trans people being the third most consumed content on Pornhub. You know, as we trans people are the third most consumed content on Pornhub, we make up 1% of the human population on planet Earth, which means that a lot of people's only exposure to trans people is through pornography. They experience a marginalized population through pornography. This kind of hate speech normalizes violence against trans people and paints gender nonconformity as inherently sexual by design, when it isn't really. There are plenty of asexual people in the LGBTQ plus spectrum. In fact, asexuality and aromanticism is actually a spectrum in and of itself, and each of these aspects have different flavors, different styles, and different boundaries that are built between people that build relationships with one another. Honestly, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the same people who hate trans people are the same people who jack off to pictures of us. And the fact that there's so many people who are scared of being considered gay for being attracted to trans women is kind of fucking sad. Not the part about being gay, but the part about being worried that you're gay. Because if you're gay, you're gay. If you're not gay, then that's between you and you. That's the point. You gotta decide if you're gay or not. And you also gotta decide if you're trans or not. And if you're neither gay and you're neither trans, then that's because you've come to those terms, not the state. And the state should have no say in your gender identity. And how is compulsory heterosexuality, which is reinforcing heterosexuality as the status quo, how is that not grooming? And how is that not dangerous either? And that is why fascism is bad, because it tries to justify violence by nationalistic, drunken, mythological ass dribblings. Pairing that with general aspects of patriarchy, it makes men unable to explore themselves emotionally and sexually, rendering them unable to express themselves with any semblance of emotional vulnerability. And that sucks. That all fucking sucks. And yet, we're the ones getting killed for it. We need genuinely comprehensive sex and gender education. And access to sexual health should be generally accessible to all. Most of the misinformation centering around transgender people is due to a lack of education. That needs to change. And maybe for the new year, maybe we can make that fucking change. Finally, we need a safer future for all, no exceptions. The revolution starts now. It doesn't start tomorrow, it starts today. And it goes on actively as we fight for our visibility and our freedom. Solidarity, comrades. Thank you.